the girl that I've been dating to get back at me, and also be managed to connect to my fucking green emerald dragon today. So I'd say it was a pretty good day.
What the fuck is this shit about Freemasons?
I don't think. I mean, well, you'll probably will get accepted, but at a certain point, they'll like.
Dude, so what exactly went down? And why do you want to become a Freemason in the first place?
Look, nothing like look. They didn't like spill like they didn't like. Oh, by the way, we worship Satan. Just so you know, they weren't like that or anything. There was nothing like that grade. They like asked like pretty much like questions that would make sense in terms of just like why are you interested in Freemasonry? Like why do you want to do this? Like they say like this is what was required in Freemasonry in terms of like time. You have to go to these fucking like schmoozy cocktail parties, or you have to go to these dinners or something. You have to things where like this happens for like 6 months, and then if you find a lodge that you get along with like with everyone there, and you can like try out different lodges to see which one you would fit into, and they like you, and then you can get will may be then like fine with taking your petition and like initiated.
That is so. And so you basically got given like the beginner's spiel.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They even invited me to do something tonight. They even invited me to do something tonight. I was like, I need to go. I need to fucking think about this shit.
Dude, did you ask them what Freemasonry actually is?
That means they said Anthony. Well, okay. I'm just telling you now, man. It's
Do you think? Are you afraid that he'll go to the dark side, Jesse?
oh, I pretty well. It seems as if you know. I think these people are very intuitive when they interview their people. When they interview, and
oh yeah,
they're looking for two things, really just one thing, which is persuasion and they have that quality.
I don't know, guys, but at me.
What?
What?
One of the, when I was leaving, he's like, oh yes, we'll send you we'll send you the email, like the email, because like I said, I can't do this thing tonight. But
Well, they view you as garbage right now. They just see you as a person who wants to pay them money. Just letting you know.
well, I
They're
mean,
like they're like
I mean,
here.
Jesse, before
They're like somewhere like not even in the first like pyramid layer. I mean,
It's what? It's what?
they make that clear on the dollar bill. Actually, they tell the whole public this. They're not they're not secret about what they do. It clearly shows us on the American currency of where we stand as far as their hierarchy.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, dude,
but
like I'm just look, dude, it's a fucking like I just walked in. They have no idea who the fuck I am yet. This is like the process that all initiates have to go through, or anyone who's interested in
I
like
know.
joining
Yeah,
the free.
no. I mean, they probably have. They always give the potential benefit of the doubt. They're not going to turn anyone probably away unless they really sense something.
Mm.
Again,
but so
I
what kind of prompted you to want to join? Or is it just for the goof?
No, it's not. I mean, I talked to Jesse about it. Like, so like the
the
fourth.
corruption with his own eyes.
What?
I'm just joking.
What'd you say?
I say you just need to see you need to see the visual proof of your own eyes. It's okay, I'm the same way. I honestly I need visuals too. Eventually, word of mouth is not good enough sometimes.
God damn it, Jesse.
I'm just being honest. Like I'm just like you can. I hope. I really think you should do it. I think it'd be. I think it would be a really interesting experience for all of us to find out what's going on in Freemasonry these days,
Oh
and
yeah.
if it's changed at all.
Oh yeah, dude. I wouldn't mind infiltrating.
I
I
know.
actually.
As soon as they find that out, you'll be like
Oh, what are
definitely.
they gonna track of my fucking Skype conversations?
No, no. I'm just saying they'll keep you. What I think they do is their main point is that they probably have like the higher Masons, and their whole goal is to keep just a large group of people at the bottom that they don't let advance
Oh yeah.
because
Oh, and I know probably things that I probably could say, or like
you
depending
become
on.
funded. You're like the taxpayer for them. You become the taxpayer for them, basically.
Well, here's the thing: like, if you know how to properly react, and if you understand certain like knowledge on a level that like probably like not a normal Mason would understand, just like how they're kind of like analyzing me now and kind of like saying like how like who's this guy and like
Well, yeah, well, they're clever. It's my opinion. It's slow manipulation that they do. They disguise good, you know, as bad. So it depends on it'll come down to how you feel about what they're telling you and what they're like saying, and then uh, you know,
uh-huh.
I mean, again, I told you, Andrew. Okay, I was wrong. He's actually tried like 3 times, and he could not get past the initiation ceremony.
I almost was interested to ask which lodge he tried to join.
What? Which lodge? Yeah, I could ask him. I mean, he tried it multiple times because I think he had a lot of connections trying to get him to go into it, and every time he came to the initiation ceremony, they're not doing it.
Oh yeah, dude. After the initiation ceremony, like they actually spoke about this in the meeting a little bit. They said like once you go through some of the rituals, or like it's like you open your eyes anew.
Well, it's kind of like that. That is their contract in a way. I hate to tell you that. In my opinion, that's kind of what I see as their energetic contract. Once you go through that ceremony,
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
they view that they feel have a right to basically, I'm sorry to say that, attach their demonic energy to the individual in a way. That's kind of
See, like I also think that because there's like 33 degrees or whatever, right? Probably more of the secret ones that we don't know about. They're not going to tell like initiatory people shit.
Oh no, dude. Well, here's the thing. I didn't really get a chance to answer your question about why I'm like joining. Like I reached a certain point in that fourth way system where in like esotericism, like I started what they would call like the formation of a subtle body. Like basically to describe the process, and I think you'd understand this because you've studied Crowley, and it's kind of like the light body that he talks about. Where it's like in the system that I had studied, it's like you start accumulating like higher impressions or like kind of higher energy, like vibrational energy that kind of like everything gives off.
Yeah.
And it kind of like what they would call like an astral body, meaning it's like kind of like bringing birth to like a new like I, so to speak, or a new self, like a new it's like a fetus. Is a fetus needs like nutrients to
sacrificed animals and small.
Oh look, I didn't sacrifice. What the hell is that noise?
Sorry, my fucking computer is connected to my phone text messaging. I'm trying to see if I can shut it off.
Ah, okay. But so, yeah. Anyways,
it starts like forming the astral body like a fetus. It requires a lot of energy to grow, and then eventually it grows, and it doesn't need as much energy to maintain. And then you have to like learn how to become conscious and like understand the capabilities that the astral body kind of like has like over like basically your physical body, which in the Gurdjieff system or his system, it's not even his system. It's like ancient knowledge. They talked about like you have your intellectual center, your emotional center, your moving center. Yeah. As like one of kind of in like certain chakras as well, and like Taoism, they all talk about those like centers. And then like you have like more conscious awareness of it, no longer like it's influencing you, like kind of like in Buddhism, like I guess like cessation or something. It's like certain desires of the physical body no longer kind of govern the person's consciousness. Yeah. So anyway, I reached up, like there are 7 levels in Gurdjieff's system. I'm still going to take maybe like a few more days, maybe like a week and a half, for me to have full like control, like reach like a level 5, which is like the formation of the astral body. Now, there are two more subtle bodies I could develop if I so choose to do it. I don't know if I really want to fucking do it. Which is like the mental body and the casual body, which means it requires like double and triple the same amount of energy it took to just form like, the fucking astral body. And yeah, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, tying this back to Freemasonry, I reached up a certain degree of esotericism that I will give myself credit. Like, I spent 2.5 years working on it, and finally have some fruits of the labor. But like, the thing is, dude, it's like, look, other than you two, like, I can't really, like, one other friend that I have, it's like I can't really discuss like in depth, or like, I don't have like a group of people where that has an active interest in, like, you could say, esoteric, so to speak.
Right.
And I put Stuart in the category as well. It's like esotericism, like you say, like, hidden knowledge that like the rest of everyone else doesn't really kind of know or is necessarily aware of.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, the big life, it's like 2.5 fucking years, just like obsessively every day.
Right.
So even though like there are other things that of course I want to do, like acting and stuff, and like I'm putting the esotericism aside. Like, I'm not going to try and go higher in the system until like maybe 10 years down the line or something, or 5 years. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, that's part of the reason why I wanted to join Freemasonry. It was like, oh, maybe I can be with like other guys that are interested in like similar concepts, and I'll have like a community. But if the community is like, well, a little fucking corrupt, which all I can go by is like what other people like say, in terms of what they know. Like,
yeah,
I choose to like believe it or not.
Well, the thing is that the actual system of Freemasonry is just a system of esotericism. There's no good or bad about it. It's just there's like bad people that use it for like fucked up means and have been doing it for years. Yeah, but like there's light and dark Freemasonry. It's just that most people don't know about the light side of it because they're only witnessing the dark side of it.
Yeah.
Not in public, but yeah, but like that's kind of interesting, because yeah, I kind of feel that way about not being able to fully discuss these kind of concepts with just anyone. So
Oh yeah, I mean, in many ways, I find that we're all students. We're all three of us are students of esotericism in our own individual way.
yeah, man, and the thing is, like, esotericism is like it's kind of a bug. Like, kind of once you get into it, and you really get into it, then you're just like, oh, this is like this whole plethora of information here that I can learn.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, I don't know if like Crowley had like a cosmology system, but Gurdjieff had a really interesting, like, he called it the ray of creation. I've actually explained this to like other people who have no understanding of esotericism or esoteric thought, and they actually were able to grasp the concept pretty well. It's kind of like how there are like different like seven layers of existence, or 7 worlds, so to speak. So, like, I don't know if you're familiar at all with like this concept. It's pretty like, I mean, like, about it's not just like Gurdjieff's system. It's like kind of like Gnostic knowledge to a certain degree.
Yeah, well, like that's what I was about to say, is that all of these cult disciplines seem to have their version of that, where it's like this is how many layers there are to existence, and it's like this is what's in them.
Well, here's a thought experiment I usually use to like get people to kind of understand it. Is like, so we take the word, I mean, Jesse's heard this before, so hope he doesn't mind going into it, because I think you'd actually find this interesting.
What's the word? Sorry, you cut out.
You take the word, the word world.
Yeah.
Now, most people you ask the word world to will most likely have many subjective like associations that pop up into their mind. Just even look how the word world is even used. But I think objectively we could, both agree that, the Earth is a world. We live on the world Earth. It's the world that hosts organic life. Objectively, I think we could say that's, true. Earth hosts organic life, this solar system. So then you ask the question further. It's like, well, what world does the Earth live under? Like, what world does the Earth inhabit? And then you say, well, the planetary bodies, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, Saturn. Um, you know, that's a world. That's a world above the world of the Earth, or the world that the Earth lives in. You go a step further. What's the framework above that? And then you say probably, well, the sun. Like the sun is the world above the world of the planet. It provides the energy. It provides the gravitational pull. It's essentially the world is quote unquote God. Then you go a step further and ask, well, what framework does what world does the Earth live under? Like the world of all the suns that probably live, that all the other suns and all the solar systems that exist within our Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
And go a step further and say, well, what world does like our Milky Way galaxy live under? It's like, well, all the different galaxies that make up our universe. And then you go a step further, and then you say, well, what world is above like all the the galaxies that can create our whole entire universe and all existence. And then you say like the one, the absolute, God mind, supreme being, and like that highest layer, like the highest world from which all worlds like kind of like manifest from.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you just kind of abstract the middle orders as necessary to create those sub worlds. And I think like people just abstracted those same worlds, but they just named it different things according to their cultural contexts and time and all that shit. Yeah. So I was just actually saying that people have abstracted those same worlds, but they called it different things depending on their culture and time and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like dude, like reading old Indian shit, like the oldest like Vedic stuff, that's like esoteric as fuck.
Oh yeah, dude, I imagine so.
Yeah,
I imagine
and it's very pagan. It's like super pagan.
Essentially, I would turn to Vedic texts and like Hinduism.
Pardon?
No, that makes sense from like like in terms of Hinduism. Yeah, there are a lot of paganistic aspects to Hinduism.
Oh yeah. I think it like all goes back to I think me and Jesse were talking about this last time, is that like all major religions go to some form of like paganism, and then something happened along the line, and then I don't know if it was like reptile influence or like whoever the fuck it was that just became like, nope, there's just one god. Fuck your lightning gods. Fuck your trees. There's just one god, and this is his book. Fuck you. You know?
Oh yeah.
Well, that was promoted, but that they didn't believe in that. They just used that as the controlling for the
yeah, because like again, it goes back to like, what does the Illuminati want? One world government, one god.
Yeah.
So
the Vatican does. They believe in the opposite.
Yeah, dude.
They use that platform for their agenda.
Yeah, and they have for like at least centuries.
Yeah, well, there's the way that I mean, to me, there's always been light force and dark force. You have many different interactions and agendas.
Exactly.
It's always been that and humans were kind of stupid, and they chose the more, I guess I want to say, the more aggressive approach. But
I would say it's just less enlightened because remember, up until like the Christianity and the Judaism, like the one God religion, there wasn't like those older like paganistic and esoteric and occult religions. They weren't enforced, you know, like they weren't like spread. But this one thing was like enforced on people and kind of became the main controlling mechanism.
yeah, well, I mean, the whole Illuminati Illuminati itself is something different, but where that agenda and energy came from is, something that's been on the planet forever.
What's up?
I have to get off because like Alexander's girl I'm seeing like calling me.
Oh yeah, sweet man. Good luck.
All right, I'll it might only take like 20, 30 minutes or something, but like I don't know if you guys will still be on or not. Like I'll shoot you a Facebook message and just let me know if you're still talking.
Yeah, man. Sweet. Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Peace. Wish me luck.
Nope. I can still see your face.
I'm trying to figure out how to like leave.
All right, there we go. Now he's gone. But yeah, man. Like I was. Uh, I forget who I was talking to about this last week. I'm sure it wasn't you, but it was that like these like because of that light and dark dance that has happened so many times through like rise and fall of civilizations that I feel that point, like we're at that point again where it's like something it has to win, whether it's light or dark, like the same point that like Egypt was, the same point that Rome was, the same point that all those quote unquote great civilizations were.
Well, it's a very interesting time right now, and we'll see. It's it really is a spirit. I want to say it really is a spiritual war right now.
It's a spiritual what?
I would really say there's a spiritual war currently going on, and it's,
Yeah, or at least it's more visible.
yeah. Well, to be honest, a lot of this darkness and energy is tied to the fourth dimensional frequency, which is we live in a three-dimensional frequency. We kind of perceive and think, we're physical in a 3D frequency and dimensional reality. So
Yeah.
when unfortunately a lot of the darker forces are kind of tied to the fourth, that way down, that kind of think of it as like a paperweight on the human consciousness. But it's kind of funny because even during the times, at least the stuff that I believe, there was a lot of genetic manipulation, and like an interesting race was like the Vikings, and Vikings were a very kind of brutal, kind of they're very aggressive, but in reality, the Vikings were they kind of they were all almost genetically in a way that they were kind of fighting. They were a warrior type of consciousness to kind of actually fight. Really, yeah. I'm going to say the dark side, actually.
So that was a result of genetic manipulation?
Well, it's my opinion that, yeah, so for a while you had a lot of this kind of dark, when I say the dark, energy, as kind of were, had a lot of ruling agendas from certain, that were, again, we could say, okay, yeah, it is kind of, it's very Illuminati and kind of reptilian in nature.
Mm.
Of course, those agendas are passed down into, so like, yeah, like, our different, cultures back then were expressions of the different, religions and kind of, like back, like Rome, the whole Christianity and all that kind of, which was really was not, went down that kind of very Illuminati based, the dark side kind of esoteric.
Yeah, just kind of being kind of guided through events and kind of.
Well, the Vikings really dominated. I mean, they came in to me that Vikings were a higher. They were mentally in a higher vibration, but they were, they were genetically powerful people, and that was, I believe, there was an agenda, which, if you want to go into all of that, we can.
Yeah.
Basically, to kind of combat, they needed to create a very powerful genetic force, so there's always been, it boils down to really, unfortunately, it's religious in a way, because it kind of does boil down to the lighter side of things, which, basically is, at the end of the day, is the attachment to the God mind or source. And then the dark side of the esoteric and kind of occult stuff is basically the kind of the opposite, is to basically create
like straight up satanic shit.
Yeah, basically satanic, which is basically to, is the opposite, become the God, basically,
Yeah, dude, there was this
actions on this planet. Every civilization had a different kind of agenda that was kind of promoting different things. So.
Yeah, and I wonder if, I mean, like, I guess they have followed a kind of pattern where, like, if they reach a certain level of complexity, after they reach a certain level of complexity, there's either an outside force or a collapse from within.
Yeah, and some of it was a hybrid of kind of combined. Sometimes the two systems combined, like in ancient Egypt, they had kind of a mixture of kind of the what I would say a mixture of the light and the dark. You had some interesting, because of the genetic civilizations that you had there, and kind of had their religion became like a kind of a hybrid system.
Yeah, and it did, and it kind of evolved as well. Where it's like, because like because Egypt was a civilization for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
Their culture and gods and religion and all that evolved as well. So I don't know if it's like a thing where like the civilization gets too lavish and comfortable, or they start slowly going towards like darkness.
Yeah, and yeah, well, yeah, it was like you had some interesting kind of mixtures of the two. Same thing with kind of some of the Eastern stuff also kind of had, because really civilization had mixing. I mean, that was one of the interesting. It's in my opinion one of the main thing that makes this planet of interest, is because of the amount of mixing that's gone on. And
yeah,
cultures. I'm a believer that actually, if we take, make a long story short, if we take the Fermi paradox, which is like intelligent life is, on one hand very rare, and like, we're at the top, or the other hand, like intelligent life is very sporadic, and we're very young in our development. So I'm on that side of the spectrum, that we're kind of young in the process, and I believe if you were to go out and look at a lot of intelligence of how it forms, typically actually usually forms in a homogeneous way. So that's that's why I think Earth is kind of unique, because there's a lot of different cultural mixing and genetic mixing, which made it interesting.
Dude,
Not that it's good or not that I'm labeling it good or bad. It's just I think naturally when you look at the animal everywhere else in biology, most species develop kind of homogenously. So
Dude, so what do you think? Do you think it was always that it's maybe not a question of whether we're still too young as a species or a planet, but the fact that we haven't reached that level of complexity which we may have in, let's say, ancient Egypt, or where there could have been some kind of breakthrough.
Well, again, yeah, it's an interesting question because we're kind of at a crossroads where very hard for me. It's hard to know. The only thing what I can do now is listen to everything, absorb it, because we're at a point where our future, I like to say, is in the making and unpredictable right now, which is not good if you're an artificial intelligence. Trying to take over, but so
Dude,
yeah,
artificial intelligence is gonna be fucking weird, man.
I already know that I'm already certain that it's an agenda, and
Oh, it is. But the thing is that how much of it would be like actual consciousness, or like would it all like, or is it all programmed stuff?
well, it's basically it's all program stuff, and the danger with AI is what happens is that it can learn. It learns. It's in a way, it's kind of what I just said. It absorbs kind of information, and in a way, again, there's one main difference. So, like, I like to use the terms like, you know, you'd have to be very, I guess, knowledgeable how to get out and tell. But essentially, there's not much difference what AI can accomplish. At the end of the day, it doesn't have a human soul component to it. So it's limited in that aspect. So that's why it's parasitic in nature. Unfortunately, AI. It's
Dude.
a system that learns and then absorbs and then conquers. That's how it works.
Did you see that video that Steven Crowder did with Alexa, where this was a while ago, but it proved something, or it showed something very interesting. Alexa is Amazon's AI, I think, and
Talking box. A lot of my friends here work at Amazon, so I've seen.
Yeah. So no, dude. So they asked, like, Alexa, like, who is Muhammad, and like, went on to the spiel about Muhammad was his great prophet, blah blah blah, and then it asked Alexa, who was Jesus Christ, and it said Jesus Christ is a fictional character, and then like, so there was this clear bias in the AI of Alexa. Of course, once the video came out, they changed it, but it took that, like, so it's like inbuilt biases, and like, imagine if that's how you've been programmed and you kind of absorb it like that, like you would create a monster.
Yeah, no, and yeah, well, there's two types. There's the program type AI that you could program it with bias, and then there's, in my opinion, even more dangerous AI that's even beyond that because, um,
Which is what do you reckon?
well, it's basically, it would be in the form of, like, say, like, of like a virus, not actual virus, but metaphorically, meaning the AI can kind of it can. So the AI that kind of we're talking about right now was kind of something that a human still creates.
Yeah, like the consumer AI.
Yeah, but in a way, also, one could argue, well, what's the definition of AI? And eventually, AI could be something that started out biological and progressed so much that it lost basically, at the end of the day, the main concept of the God mind energy is creation, source of reproduction. That is, it's like to say the soul kind of faction.
Yeah.
So, so what could happen is it doesn't really matter if it could start out biological in nature, and then once it loses, if it progresses enough where it loses the ability to continue to reproduce biologically, it needs to attach itself then to something, which the AI would essentially, it could map. So humans in nature, what it could probably do is what I've read, it could map out like 6 months in advance. Problem with AI, it can't. It's very possible it could obviously completely take over humanity, but AI's problems, the algorithm that can only predict humans up to probably a 6-month period ahead. I think after that, because humans, there's still something about the actual self-replication of the God force or God source that I like to call it.
Yeah.
Natural creation that is unpredictable in nature. That's how it, that's how it acts in.
Oh, dude, you just made me think of something interesting. Like, because this whole system.
But the Matrix movie, to me, was a very interesting example of kind of that.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is that this, like, because the very system is unnatural and corrupt and was created by like twisting the Masonic system of symbols, then inherently what is created within it won't be benevolent of the God mind. Because like I kept thinking, like, what if there is a possibility that that through AI you can actually kind of incarnate actual consciousness, but not, it won't be through humans. It would be like it would be the same God source consciousness, but just existing non-biologically. Because you know how there's like a belief that the soul does not enter a fetus until like a few weeks into its development once the biological conditions are right. So I was wondering, like, what if the technological or like the circuit conditions need to be right in order for consciousness to incarnate, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, there's like people at the forefront of this stuff debating all these issues, and it's fascinating to listen to. But also,
well, the problem is there's two threats. Is like if we exclude the threat that something from out there has already had an AI that's turned into a kind of parasitic force in nature, even if we exclude that from attacking and attaching itself to different things, which is also a possibility, by the way, that
I agree.
already had an AI problem, and that AI has now gone out and basically
Yeah.
gone to other places, and it but again, what I think the main issue affecting Earth here would be our scientists, whatever, creating the AI, and then that AI again, it really depends on the purpose of what they're creating the AI for. It could have they could be doing it for that purpose. You never know. They could be purposely developing an artificial intelligence system that benefits them and kind of integrates into the AI. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is possible, man.
Reading it for good intentions, still learns algorithms and eventually takes over. Unfortunately, I think AI is very dangerous. Personally, I'm not a fan of the.
Yeah, I mean, I just I don't know.
Very regulated. There's different I think there's examples where I think you could do it something where as long as it has a soul, as long as you still are taking a bit of the natural God force and incorporating into something, then it's fine. Because that's still you're still connected to the source. Where it gets bad is if again, AI to me is the final form of Satanism in a way of this dark occult. This is the final ending of what it turns into.
Right.
Basically, you create create it's like the Antichrist. You create the Antichrist basically.
Yeah, which is a completely non-human entity.
Yeah, which is basically your
right.
Well, yeah, well,
which is completely lacking that God force.
Well, yeah, I basically metaphorically say it, meaning it's like it's and it certainly is possible. Of course, it's not out of the realms of possibility that you could have an AI thing. There's nothing that stops that from happening. It's not like the God force won't allow that. It's just anything that's connected to the it can't kill you. Okay, I don't think you can ever kill the God force. That's some of these, I think, occultists, I believe it's their mission to I don't know what
you can't never kill it, but you can severely diminish it.
I don't know what they think. I think they probably know that you can't kill, but what they can do is, if you create the ultimate AI, is basically you could create something that matches it and tries to emulate it in density and kind of
at least in the human context, or at least how it's needed for the human context and not the bigger grand universal thing, which is what the God force is. Yeah, man, I don't know, because the thing is that if it's
I don't think the AI can function outside of this third or fourth dimensional frequency. So
it would have to exist in the
prices above that. They would have no problem. It's a game. It's bad for anything. I don't know. Now we're getting into really out there stuff because I don't know. Can the AI latch itself onto things to bring it up to a fifth dimensional awareness and consciousness? I don't really know.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking when you mentioned that is that AI by its design has to exist in the third dimension and others because it's a form of media, so media is its own realm, and then like that fucking artificial consciousness or whatever, where the fuck that is.
So that's where I start to actually maybe think differently, and probably even differently than Anthony. I think probably me and him may disagree on this. Is I think AI and all this, unfortunately, the dark side of esotericism, the occult stuff, it really actually, in my opinion, congregates around the third and fourth dimensional frequency. I don't believe for one bit actually that they go beyond that. They cannot go beyond. That's why they function in that frequency, because that's where this energy basically formed. That's how the natural flow, and because it naturally flowed that way, it shows that it can't go beyond fourth dimensional because that's how it kind of came to be. So I don't personally believe actually that the AI in this there's certain limits, like Freemasonry. To me, Freemasonry, the corrupt version, in no ways delves into fifth dimensional or higher ways of thinking. It's all concentrated in fourth dimensional way, and a lot of civilizations, ancient civilizations, unfortunately, the religious things there was a blend where it kind of got hybridized and mixed up. So you have to be careful, even with some of the, in my opinion, with even some of the original, uh, you know, Eastern things, because they all had roots, and fourth dimensional is something different than third dimensional. Like it is definitely something.
Yeah, there is. I mean, like the way
stuff, I can tell you some experiences I've had involving fourth dimensional stuff, but I still don't believe that the artificial intelligence and the kind of satanic force, I don't believe they can go higher than the fourth dimensional. They want to keep everyone in that force. That's the whole point of their agenda.
I think that is what I think as well, is that they want to keep people's consciousness in third/fourth dimension, but I actually think they do have ways to access higher planes than the third and the fourth. I'm not sure if they do, but there are ways, like shamanically, to enter like those higher realms, which is kind of, and some systems actually lay it out where it's like, the fourth and the fifth dimensions are like basically the garbage dump dimensions, and then the sixth one is like the dimension of like the animal spirits, and then like there are systems that break it down like that, and it's always different for all of them. Like in one point in like one of them, which was Native American, there are 12 dimensions, and 12 is the God mind, and then like in some there's 7, and some there's like 8, but it always kind of follows that hierarchy. It's like we're always the third.
Yeah,
we're always the third.
Yeah.
And then like the highest is the God mind, and then in between, I think it just has to do with how the person who wrote it down experienced those dimensions.
Yeah, again, I think they're using metaphors to probably just interpret it, and
yeah, I don't know, man. Magical experiences can get pretty real when you're in that state, because it's not a psychedelic state. It's not a state that meditation puts you in. It's this another altered state, which is the magical state. It's so weird. It's so weird to experience.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people probably when they think about it, it's like, oh, it's like things don't necessarily change. It's the frequency that changes the certain kind of mind pattern of the consciousness of the species. That's kind of
Yeah, and it's all like consciousness based. Like it's all in.
As you get towards the top, yeah, I think what eventually happens is you actually start to become borderline non-physical. You get into that realm of really high.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's at least in my experience, how I've experienced it. It's like the dimensions start to fuse, where it's like like where like if you're in your kitchen, it's not just a kitchen. It would be like the court of King Solomon.
Yeah. Well, like I think frequency would probably not have money. That's like, that's what I personally think. To me, money is still a demonic kind of, has a demonic spell and attachment to it.
100%. That's how it was designed. And like that's why they own all the banks and like control that shit. And like if you like forgot to pay $1 in tax, they will come after you like a motherfucker.
I know. So like, yeah. So just even little stuff like that, like raising to the fifth, even just like a higher fifth dimension would be like, they're probably, you're still in the same place geographically and stuff, but there's the consciousness arises to higher modes of connecting and
Yeah, which
get
is
these kind of there's less chaos really is what ends up happening. Right now
yeah, and
state. So
and less incoherence of will. Like people kind of are basically on the same page about like that higher shit in
no,
those in those higher.
that's why the Illuminati are brilliant because they figured out a way that if they cause chaos, they could stay in their own little world and it wouldn't deviate as long as they continue to keep the chaos happening.
Yeah, because here's the thing, the whole
That's why when I think as a consciousness, when we evolve, there's not going to be a World War III. The next main war, I mean, there will be
there
like
might be,
there will
who
be
knows, man.
yeah, I know there probably will be a World War III there, but really realistically, the real war is spiritually in nature. That's really
Oh yeah, that has always been the case, but I think that, and this is why, like, the dark occultists are all united in their will, which means even though it's evil, the universe has to obey it according to like the magical laws, you know? And the will of the people is so divided, that it's kind of just like going all over the place. So their will is being imposed because it's strong, because it's collected. It's like all one thing. What do we want? We want to be God, and that's it. While like the people are put in chaos consciousness, which is not good to fight the dark occult forces.
well. They also, I mean, they kind of part of the chaos is they do want people, you know, attached to being the kind of that in terms of psychological human way of putting that out, that's called insecurity. As far as I'm concerned, that's we want to attach different psychological conditions to the Illuminati, and what they prey on with their kind of programming is probably if you're prone for insecurity, then they can program you in many ways, and one is the same idea that they are actually, which is to want to become kind of like the God thing, and that's not great either because unfortunately you're not connecting to source. You're moving away from it actually.
Yeah, into just pure ego.
Yeah, it becomes pure ego, which is
Yeah, but yeah, I don't. You are right. I do. Uh, yeah, and in this spiritual war, though, I think more and more people are waking up. I hope.
well, yeah. Well, see, like I don't know where you're at because like one of my biggest struggles now is the people that I follow is some think we're really on a positive that we really are on a positive timeline, and what you're seeing is the kind of final because the Illuminati are not going to go down. They're going to go out with a fight. They're not just going to pack up their bags and
Yeah, which is what's happening right now. I think
so
they're reaching right now.
very interesting time right now because we're kind of at this quote unquote book of Genesis, kind of the final, or the kind of the ending where it's like,
Yeah,
like
where it's like, dude,
they're trying to collapse it, and this is where it's hard for me to believe because I don't know, I don't. Some people say we're on a positive timeline, and others, say, well, like, you know, no, that's this is there's still a lot of control to get past. So
and there is. I agree.
I think there's probably a combination of both. It's because it seems to me uh, it seems that well, if you want to get really into some out there stuff, well, it seems to me that I believe in reincarnation, that souls kind of come here for a purpose, and
Yeah.
I believe some of our higher, I'm going to say, races that have involvement, part of the light, these souls are coming back and reincarnating on this planet because this is part of a awakening. We're kind of shifting towards the fifth dimension. We're actually as far as I'm concerned, we wouldn't even go to the fourth dimension because we're under the fourth dimensional spell that controls the third dimension.
Yeah.
The next step where we're going to is straight up the fifth dimension. There is no need for us to go to fourth at this point. It's kind of this. So that could be probably happening. And, I think what happens, of course, when one reincarnates on this planet because of the control grid and the way the Illuminati set it up, usually you're supposed to remember your past lives. That's something that I believe, that the soul always remembers, but you're kind of wiped clean. Your slate is wiped clean when you reincarnate on this planet because they have such a kind of a matrix system that the Illuminati control that they've designed it that they obviously don't want people remembering.
Yeah, dude, you're the second or third person to bring that up. Where it's like, who was fucking talking about it? Where it was something like, when you die, don't go into the light because then you'll just be recycled. Like in that same way, where it's kind of you're wiped clean and you're yeah. So kind of going towards the light is like a false thing, that's being depicted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Then there's all this, new agey kind of stuff, and well, yeah. No, I think it's a very interesting time, and whatever it is, it just seems like at least energetically, people are connecting to their abilities. They can still have the control is still there, but they're fighting, and I think they could be fighting a timely battle now, that they limited time battle, the Illuminati, because a lot of the people on this planet are probably spiritually much higher, or at least they're connected higher than just this third and fourth dimensional dark energy.
Yeah.
And the Illuminati are running out of time, and that's what they're trying to, figure out how much time they can buy before enough people start waking up. And Trump has been a major force of causing this, which is why he's a very interesting character, which he's, entertaining.
I find it hilarious, yeah.
It's very bizarre because I'm seeing people who you would never think, and he's providing a platform to. He's not the changer, but what he's doing is he's pulling away the curtain, this was a very critical time in humanity to be doing this, because if they didn't pull away the curtain and we got another Hillary, then that would have been really bad. That would have not been good, because then it wouldn't have allowed this chaos, which is, I think, this chaos that's happening, unfortunately, as bad as it is, people's lives who are,
Yeah, but I think like
an opportunity. It's the curtain slowly pulled back. And
chaos like always makes the ground fertile for order.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we can make it so it's not the New World Order of the Illuminati, but maybe the Divine Order. Which will be the ultimate goal. Which is what it should be, essentially.
Well, what's going to happen is it's going to be very interesting to see, because once again, I don't know what Trump is connected to, and if he's connected to what I think he's going to, if they have the means to do it, they're going to slowly start releasing little. They're not going to do it in a big push, because there's a lot of information that humanity is. Like I said, I believe there really are there's a lot of good souls on this planet. I just think they're very caught up in the machine. They've been very programmed.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a formation there's new factions now to slowly bring out little bits of information here and there. And some of these are going to be scientifically, of stuff.
Yeah, technology
stuff. Like, I think I already know for a fact there's certain technology stuff that they've had since '60s that they've that's way more advanced than what we're currently using. It's just that, of course, this technology involved free energy. That's what Tesla proved.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was horrible for the, oil and all these commodity giants that their whole control power is built on, this oil and gas, these, this.
Yeah. I think they have a bunch of shit, which is what like the shit, like the alien shit with Tom DeLonge. I think.
Oh yeah, they're slowly like he's like that's probably why someone like him is probably his life is in this position because someone like him is probably a good person to slowly start, bring it. You can't do it in one bunch because if you
because that would be all.
That would cause too much, that would cause collapse, which they don't.
Yeah, or like I think it could like if it was all disclosed all at once, what it would do, is either create a lot of chaos and completely discredit all of authority, or seem like complete bullshit because it got released like that.
Card here is of a lot of these organizations and what they've felt guilty about is not necessarily disclosure about like the alien stuff. It's the part that's hard for them. It's not about telling people that like aliens exist. It's once you acknowledge that, what's the first thing that people are going to ask? How are they here? And that's where the technology gets involved, and that's when we've been lied. That's the big card that we've been lied to for 100 years now. About it's not really the aliens; it's more the technology is what is going to be the slow. I believe, because that was the huge card that the elites and the Illuminati have just
So it's like a soft, but.
Because their empire would be diminished once the people had the knowledge of this. People would actually start legitimately having a revolution. They'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, exactly.
So it for the last like they will,
So it has to be a soft disclosure.
Yeah, so they can't do it all at once.
That makes sense.
Trump and other factions around the world. Not again, you're seeing. Even someone like Angela Merkel is in an interesting place because she has influence, I believe, from both sides. You don't really know. It's kind of like what I see going on. The elites are coming together. I have a feeling they know that their agenda is kind of getting threatened, and it's like, who wants to change? Who wants to put down the old system, make a positive, or who wants to die in glory? And I think that's what you're going to see is who's going to keep attacking to the end, who's going to fight, take their masonry pride, which is why I'm one other thing I've discussed with Anthony eventually. It's like,
do you think he'll go all the way in?
I'm just afraid because honestly, these people have two mindsets. And what I think the future for these people, they have two options. It's either you change with the consciousness of what's going on, or you die in glory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Meaning they are not going to they'll keep attacking. They don't care about the Enlightenment. They will.
Yeah.
Dying. It's what Islam is like. Suicide bombers, basically. You become a suicide bomber.
Yeah. Fuck, man.
That's why we don't really.
We'll see
what these elites. And I've been reading some interesting stuff, and Putin, an interesting player because, in my opinion, the United States, the bad part of the cabal, wants to start a third world war with Russia, and Putin is not engaging them. He's like, no, I'm not. He's really giving them the middle finger. He's really not giving them what this cabal in America wants, which is a third war to push the new world order, to finally really solidify.
Yeah. I think they're pushing for I think the third war is going to be between the West and Islam.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what they're kind of working at in Europe. I think it's going to spread. And I think it's
which is interesting because some of the groups don't want the war in Islam. They would prefer to have the war. They want to have the third world war with Russia. They want the Cold War basically again.
Shit, man.
The different factions now. That's why it's really. I mean, it's the greatest time. I mean, you have to look.
It's an interesting time.
Yeah, recently been trying to stay more positively oriented, and the way that I'm looking at it is, I think this is one of the more interesting times in history to be alive.
Yeah.
It's very unpredictable right now.
Yeah, man. Let's fucking hope so. Yeah. By the way, man, I gotta go. So sweet, man. It's always fucking like enlightening going back and forth with yourself. And I hope Anthony joins the Freemason and doesn't join the Illuminati.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, no matter how much, eventually, well, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right, man. Peace out.